Hey there, BookTube! Chelsea, the Ringing Outlaw, here to do the next set of 5 books in my 2017 book review wrap-ups. We are talking about books 41 through 45 today. Book 41 was a podcast book that is A Trifle Dead by Olivia Day. This is the first book in the Café La Femme series, and this is a book about a cafe owner who lives in Australia who is a daughter of a local police chief and has a lot of relationships with the local police force, which becomes a really big deal when a fellow tenant of her building ends up murdered and a murder mystery unfolds. This is, I don't think, quite a cozy mystery, but it's close. I will leave the podcast episode where we talk about this down below, and you can go listen to all of my thoughts as well as the thoughts of the other ladies who talk about it. But I did enjoy it. While it wasn't my absolute favorite, I'm just not a huge mystery person. The next book I read is an absolute 5-star book. It's a reread. I absolutely adore this book. That is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. I don't remember why I picked this up other than I just really wanted to read it again, and I did. I listened to it on audio. I listened to it in a single day. I absolutely love this book. If you haven't picked this book up, it is about family and time travel and science and faith, and it's just so wonderful. It's so amazing. It's all about girls who love science and girls who love their families and the families who love them back. And just please go pick it up if you've never read it. I understand this is one of those books that if you missed out on it in childhood, it can be kind of weird or can feel a little like you're behind the times if you're just picking it up. But I hadn't read this book in like 15 years and it felt like I was reading it for the first time all over again. And it is just as good and just as powerful when I read it this time. So you're absolutely never too late to read A Wrinkle in Time. Please go pick it up. 5 stars, 1,000 stars, all the stars in the galaxy. The next book I read was Gilead by Marilynne Robinson. I am a little embarrassed that it took me this long to get to this book, but not really, because I don't really get embarrassed about books like that. But I do absolutely love this book, and it has come so highly recommended by so many people. Everybody over at Book Riot, it seems like on every Book Riot podcast, is just always here for anything Marilynne Robinson does. And now that I've read her work, I can understand why. This is the story of an older preacher in Iowa writing letters to his son about his life and his marriage and his faith and how he has come to establish his life and what it's like to be a father and just all of these things. I immediately bought a copy for my father-in-law, who is a former pastor who was born in Illinois, so it felt very similar and very close to home. I cried several times listening to this book, and I'm on the wait list for the audiobooks for the next 2 books in kind of the Gilead trilogy, I guess, or I think there are only 2. There might be 3. However many they are, I am completely elated to have all of Marilynne Robinson's back catalog to dig into. The next book is Eat the Sky, Drink the Ocean, edited by Christy Murray. This book has a really interesting concept. It is authors and illustrators from Australia and India who worked together to craft this book. Some of they mixed and matched authors and illustrators from different places and put together these short stories and these graphic novels that are just all about being an immigrant, that are all about being First Nations, that are all about being female, that are all about being a member of a minority culture and how that plays out and what's that like. There are fantasy stories in here. There are contemporary stories. There are science fiction stories. It's really, really interesting. It can feel a little discordant at times, and I'm not sure if that's the author collaborations or just the variety of genres within the collection or both. Probably a little of both. But there were some that I absolutely adored and some that didn't hit quite as well for me. I gave the book 3 stars because I feel like that's just my standard short story collection rating, but I really recommend picking it up, especially if you've not read a lot of books either from India and Indian authors or from Australia. Definitely worth picking up because those viewpoints and those national voices come through really strong in all of the stories. And the last book that I read in this chunk that I'm going to talk about is The Obfuscated by N.K. Jemisin, which is the second book in her, I think they're just called the Obfuscated series. I'm not entirely sure. You can let me know down below. But it is the follow-up to the second season. I really, really loved this book. This book to me felt very, very different than the 5th season. The 5th season I had a really hard time liking until about 2/3 of the way through when the big twist happens. If you've read it, you'll know what I mean. That really turned the book around for me, but because of that, I still have some kind of lingering mixed feelings about how I feel about the book as a whole. But I loved The Obfuscate so much. I thought it was such a great second book. It does such a good job slowly unpacking and digging into all the world building, which is such a complex thing within this universe. And I just really, really love the plot that it's setting up to finish in the 3rd book. Normally, second books really fall flat for me, but I feel like this one did a really, really great job of doing everything a second book is supposed to do while still standing on its own as a story. But I loved the Obfuscated. If you've already read the 5th season, I don't have to tell you why you need to go pick it up, but definitely go do. And if you haven't started the series yet, I would definitely recommend that you start because it's definitely going to be a strong one all the way through. And that is the next set of 5 books that I read. That is 41 through 45. Let me know down below which of these that you've read, which of these that you're looking forward to reading, what you're reading right now. Come find me all over the internet to talk book stuff. And as always, until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and have happy reading.